William is back at the point where he would throw somebody out of the room if they brought up the name Harry in his presence. The background to this is that William, of course, when this all kicked off 5-6 years ago, was incensed and full of rage. And at one point, actually, he was very sad and he was grieving for his brother. Harry's back in the country. Harry's seeing his father. Aides are having to have discussions with William about their events clashing, which has happened all of this week. And of course, you know, William is furious. He's in no mood to repair relations with his brother at all. And yeah, he would throw somebody out of the room if they mentioned his name.
Explosive leaks. Backfire. William and Kate's fear, jealousy and rage against Harry. Exposed in tabloid war. The latest so-called exclusive tabloid story about Prince William throwing fits of rage at the very mention of his younger brother Harry has once again reignited the debate that refuses to go away. Why do William and Kate keep feeding leaks, smears and briefings against Harry, when time after time it only ends up exposing their own insecurities? The world has not forgotten the whispers, the off-the-record briefings, the conveniently timed stories that appear in the press whenever Harry and Meghan make a move. And yet, with every new leak, every calculated source close to the palace briefing, the image of William and Kate becomes more brittle, more performative and more desperate. The narrative they attempt to construct, that William is the strong, stable heir protecting the monarchy, while Harry is reckless, naïve and disloyal, crumbles under the weight of its own contradictions, especially when the rage of the heir is so openly acknowledged by the very journalists who rely on his camp for stories. The report claims that William will throw you out of the room if you dare mention Harry's name. That single sentence paints a portrait more devastating than 1,000 editorials. It does not show a future king calmly carrying his duties with wisdom and maturity. It shows a man unable to regulate his emotions, lashing out, consumed by bitterness, and haunted by the presence of a brother he cannot outshine. For what is jealousy, if not the constant reminder that someone else possesses qualities you crave but can never embody? And what is fear, if not the gnawing awareness that the brother you seek to erase from history is the one people actually love, the one who connects with the public in a way the heir never truly has? Harry, after all, has always been the human face of the monarchy. His easy smile, his ability to connect with people from all walks of life, his willingness to speak vulnerably about grief, trauma and mental health. These are the very qualities William struggles to imitate but cannot. Kate, too, despite being positioned as the serene queen-in-waiting, has been drawn into this endless comparison. For every headline praising her fashion choices, there is the lurking spectre of Meghan, whose style and charisma ignite global attention and genuine enthusiasm. It is no accident that whenever Meghan steps into the spotlight, a wave of counter-stories suddenly appear about Kate's outfits, her quiet dignity, or William's supposed strength. It is a desperate attempt to maintain relevance, an endless cycle of deflection that only highlights their insecurity. The leaks themselves betray the truth. If William and Kate were truly confident in their roles, if they truly felt secure on the throne's path, they would not need to resort to petty smears about Harry's supposed plans to return. They would not rage about his name being mentioned. They would not fear that his presence could destabilize them. And yet, time after time, the narrative they attempt to control spins out of their hands. The more they leak, the more obvious it becomes that they are terrified, not of Harry's mistakes, but of Harry's existence. Consider the historical irony. The monarchy has survived wars, abdications, scandals, divorces and tragedies. But what now exposes its fragility is not an external threat, but the rivalry of two brothers, one of whom cannot forgive and the other of whom refuses to be silenced. William's rage monster image, reinforced by repeated reports of his shouting, storming, and even physically attacking Harry, has turned him into the very caricature of a tyrant. The public may tolerate stiffness, formality, even aloofness from their royals, but what they cannot accept is the image of a man consumed by envy, wielding his position as a weapon and treating his brother as an enemy to be destroyed. And yet this is precisely the picture the tabloids now sketch, with the palace's full cooperation. It raises a chilling question. Who benefits from this endless cycle of leaks? Certainly not the monarchy, whose reputation is increasingly one of dysfunction, bitterness and pettiness. Certainly not William and Kate, who appear insecure, obsessed and fearful, The only winners are the tabloids themselves, who feed on drama and scandal, keeping the royal soap opera alive at the cost of the institution's dignity. And if the heir and his wife are willing participants in this feeding frenzy, it reveals a truth they cannot escape. They need Harry far more than Harry needs them. Without Harry as the villain, what story remains for William and Kate? Without Meghan as the foil, how do they define their own relevance? Harry, for his part, has not played the game in the same way. Yes, he has spoken openly in interviews, in his memoir and in documentaries, but these were not petty leaks whispered by aides into the ears of gossip columnists. They were his own words, his own voice, unfiltered and accountable. That difference matters. For while William and Kate hide behind unnamed sources, Harry speaks for himself, risking criticism but owning his truth. And therein lies the real threat. Honesty is more powerful than spin. Vulnerability outshines stiffness. Authenticity trumps staged perfection. This is what William and Kate cannot bear, and this is why the smears continue, even when they boomerang back and damage them more than they damage Harry. The supposed return plan that William fears so much is itself a telling invention. Harry has not begged to return to the fold. He has not sought to reclaim royal duties or palace corridors. His life in California with Meghan and their children is defined by freedom, independence, and causes he believes in. The very idea that he would need to return is a projection of William and Kate's own anxieties. They fear that Harry's mere presence, his popularity, and his authenticity could overshadow them. They imagine a plan because they cannot accept that Harry does not crave what they guard so desperately. Their fear is rooted in the possibility that the public might prefer the brother who walked away to the one who clings to power. The tabloids dress this fear in the language of exclusives, insiders, and leaks. They write of William's temper as if it were strength, of Kate's silence as if it were wisdom, but the mask slips with every line. If you mention him, he'll throw you out of the room. That is not the portrait of a king in waiting. That is the portrait of a man unraveling, consumed by emotions he cannot master. That is not stability, that is fragility. And fragility is fatal to the monarchy's carefully crafted myth of endurance. The deeper tragedy of this saga is how transparent the fear and jealousy have become. William and Kate, once styled as the stable, dutiful couple who would supposedly modernize the monarchy, now look brittle and insecure, defined not by their own accomplishments but by their obsession with Harry and Meghan. Every leak, every briefing, every carefully timed story meant to cast them as dignified heirs, and Harry as reckless only ends up exposing their desperation. The very machine they rely on, the tabloids that spin their grievances into front-page exclusives, has become their undoing. For when the palace aligns itself with gossip merchants, the dignity they claim to embody is stripped bare. They are no longer the serene faces of continuity, but participants in a public feud, indistinguishable from reality TV stars feeding drama to stay relevant. The rage monster label clings to William because it has been confirmed by too many sources, whispered by too many aides, and even referenced by Harry himself in his memoir. The infamous story of William allegedly grabbing Harry by the collar, throwing him to the floor in an outburst of temper, cemented an image that no amount of glossy photos or PR briefings can erase. For a future king to be so physically violent toward his own brother is not just unbecoming, it is disqualifying in the eyes of many who expect calmness, diplomacy, and measured leadership. And yet, rather than acknowledge or learn from that moment, William's team continues to weaponize leaks, as if throwing mud at Harry will wash away the stain of his own fury. But rage cannot be hidden by spin. It seeps through the cracks, resurfacing in each new report of slammed doors, silenced courtiers, and threats to throw people out of the room if Harry is mentioned. Kate, too, has been swept into this vortex of fear. Her carefully curated image as the calm, elegant Duchess has been punctured by the endless comparisons to Meghan. No matter how many stories the tabloids print about her dresses selling out, or her quiet strength holding the monarchy together, the fact remains that Meghan's star power is uncontainable. Meghan walks into a room, and the cameras, the eyes, the energy shift toward her. She speaks with conviction, she acts with purpose, and she does so without hiding behind palace courtiers. For Kate, who has been trained to perfect the art of silence, this is an existential threat. The monarchy has long relied on women who smile, wave, and say little. Meghan shattered that mould, and in doing so, She exposed how empty the old mould really is. This is why the leaks about Meghan have always been the most vicious. Stories about tears at bridesmaid dress fittings, about supposed diva behaviour, about feuds that were often exaggerated or outright fabricated. These were not accidents. They were strategic, designed to reduce Meghan's shine so Kate could appear brighter by comparison. But it backfired spectacularly. Each smear only underscored the insecurity driving it. The jealousy is not subtle, it is glaring. Harry and Meghan's departure from royal life was meant to be their downfall, a humiliation that would prove the monarchy's supremacy. Instead, it liberated them. They built a life on their own terms, secured global platforms, and earned financial independence. The very things William and Kate cannot do without taxpayer money and palace machinery are the things Harry and Meghan have accomplished freely. And this terrifies the heirs. Because if Harry can thrive outside the institution, what does that say about the institution itself? If Meghan can captivate the world without titles or tiaras, what does that say about the future Queen's supposed indispensability? These questions hang heavy, and the only way William and Kate seem to know how to answer them is with more leaks, more briefings, more attacks that only confirm their fear. The public sees it. Social media lights up each time another exclusive drops, dissecting the language, tracing the fingerprints of palace spin doctors. The pattern is always the same. Harry and Meghan announce a project, attend an event, or share a moment that wins public attention. Within days, stories emerge about William's frustration, Kate's sacrifice, or the couple's supposed hurt feelings. The cycle is predictable, almost comically so. And yet the palace persists, as if the public cannot connect the dots. But the truth is out. Every leak is not just a smear against Harry, it is a confession of William and Kate's jealousy. The irony is that the monarchy once thrived on mystery. Its power was sustained by the silence of its members, the aura of untouchable majesty. By descending into tabloid games, William and Kate have shattered that illusion. They are no longer mysterious figures above the fray. They are players in the mud, indistinguishable from the celebrities they once looked down upon. And in this new battlefield, Harry and Meghan have the advantage. They speak directly, authentically, owning their narratives. William and Kate, in contrast, hide behind anonymous aides and friends of the couple. Who looks stronger? Who looks braver? Who looks more genuine? The answer is obvious, and it is why the jealousy festers. Even within Britain, the narrative is shifting. Younger generations see through the leaks. They question why the heir to the throne needs to rage about his brother when there are larger national crises at hand. They wonder why Kate is celebrated for wearing dresses while Meghan is vilified for working. They ask why taxpayer money funds a family that spends its energy leaking against itself. And though the monarchy's loyal defenders still dominate certain tabloids, the cracks are widening. Fear is not a foundation on which a dynasty can survive. Jealousy is not a legacy that inspires loyalty. What William and Kate fail to realize is that every act of rage, every whisper to a journalist, every story about Harry's so-called return is a mirror reflecting back on them. It shows the world who they really are, not confident leaders, but frightened rivals. Not gracious heirs, but jealous siblings unable to share the spotlight. And history will remember this. Just as it remembers the abdication crisis, the Diana years, and the scandals of other royals, it will remember the era when the future king and queen consort reduced themselves to tabloid characters, undone by their own envy of the brother and sister-in-law they tried so hard to erase. The monarchy cannot survive on fear. It cannot thrive on jealousy. And yet William and Kate seem locked in a cycle they cannot break, a cycle that defines them more with each passing leak. For Harry does not need to return for his shadow to loom large. He need only live, speak, and be himself. And in doing so, he exposes the fragility of the throne more than any critic ever could. That is why William rages, why Kate clings, and why the tabloids feast. It is not Harry who looks desperate. It is them. To all my curious Sussex family, thank you all for watching, and do not forget to subscribe, like, and put a comment. Bye-bye, see you then in our next episode.